welcome back to Screen Heroes. My name is Ray, and I am joined by my two regular hosts, Ryan.
Hi.
And Derek.
Hi.
And
how's it going?
We're super stressed out. We had a lot of technical difficulties getting this off the ground tonight, but we're here. We're, 1/3 queer, and we're ready to go. So let's get this started. We're going to talk SDCC today and all the fun announcements. Do you guys want to start with Marvel, or do we want to save that? What do you want to do? Like over 30 trailers, I think, dropped this weekend, and a lot of new TV shows I'm interested in, a lot of continuations of TV shows that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk some TV. How'd you feel about the new featurette and trailer of Dark Crystal, right?
Wow, we're diving right into the deep end.
Let's do it.
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, they said that everything was hand sculpted. They talked about how
the Frauds were there.
The Frauds, yeah. They talked about how everything that was made for that set and all the sets, from the background paintings to the creatures, were all like the peak of artist talent, and
I believe it.
Yeah, and you can really see that come through. And they showed some new footage. You got to see Skeksis run, which was very weird for me.
I thought that was weird too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could run. I guess I had just never really thought about it.
Right, they just stood in a circle for most of the time.
Well, they each had 13 different people puppeting them. So, I mean, I can't imagine running was super easy back then. But now, obviously, it's changed a little bit.
I love the combination of the puppetry and the green screen work. From what they showed, it was so well done. And I appreciate that the green screen is just, the beautiful landscape at times, not even like the entire time.
Yeah, they actually showed like a person hand painting a backdrop, so it's
Pretty amazing.
It's really cool.
Derek, any thoughts on Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance?
It looks beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
You guys kind of covered most of the bases. It just looks fantastic. All the puppetry looks perfect. Agra looks exactly the way I remember that she's looked.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a couple of years since I've watched the movie, and we'll rewatch
I haven't
soon.
seen her close enough to see if she has nipples still.
She is wearing a full dress.
Yes, so I imagine you won't be able to see nipples through it, but who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, hopefully they give a throwback nipple shot.
I agree.
They did also say that they're releasing a behind-the-scenes document, like a making-of documentary type thing, when they release the show. So that will be very cool.
I'm gonna watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, I loved the behind-the-scenes for the original Dark Crystal that came on. I think it was on the Blu-ray, but yeah, it was like an hour and a half. It was like longer than the movie, but it was awesome.
So the show drops on Netflix on August 30th this year.
31st.
31st?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
I thought their new shows dropped on Fridays. Anyway, check that
Maybe I'm
out,
wrong.
of course. And we will be prepping the week before by watching Dark Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to rewatch. So we're calling the new segment Preparing For, and I'm calling it Preparing for the Resistance, this particular episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're all excited about that. That'll be fun.
Another franchise that's a continuation also dropped a half featurette, half trailer. That is Terminator Dark Fate.
Which I actually didn't watch.
You didn't watch that one?
I don't think.
I put it on there.
Okay, well, I missed it.
Whatever.
But I did see the news about good old John Connor is going to be back.
Yeah,
Our favorite from T2, the best part of T2, really.
Edward Furlong was an announcement this weekend.
I watched the featurette and everything, and I'm very excited for this movie.
Seeing Tim Miller be so excited about directing Terminator just feels cool.
Yeah, it's nice to see a lot of like passion and excitement back for the franchise. Tonally, the trailer at least seems very in line with T2. I know T3 gets a lot of hate mainly for its PG-13 rating, but there are aspects of that movie that are really cool.
Kristana Loken killed it. Like,
yeah, she was really
say
good.
whatever you want about that movie, but you can't say anything bad about her because she killed that Terminator role. She was scary and intimidating and, technically advanced. It was a cool.
But this one looks great. The special effects look absolutely phenomenal. It's a, kind of the next iteration of the liquid metal concept from the T-1000 and everything. So it just looks exciting, looks cool. Linda Hamilton is a badass, and she actually fought to make the character more intense and gritty than what they originally wanted her to be in this movie. They wanted her to be more relatable, and in the first movie, Sarah Connor might be relatable, but in T2, she's a badass action hero. That's who she is.
There's no reason for her to be relatable. At this point, she should be a completely isolated, bitter, hardened figure. Like, she should actually be the most unrelatable character in this. You know, T-800 is supposedly adapting to human life to a certain
I like
degree.
how he's living out in a cabin,
right?
Like, you know,
like they
living his best life.
They should have swapped personalities kind of by now. Like, she should be the angry hunter, and
if he was wearing flannel, I would have freaked.
That would have been awesome.
There's still plenty of movies.
He had a mustache, just like a Ron Swanson mustache.
But it looks cool. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the people who are involved in it. The storyline looks interesting. It's a bummer that they're erasing 3 because I think that one did some cool stuff. You know, as far as like Judgment Day actually
4
happening.
And 5, but yeah, the 3 had a good story behind it, just bad intentions with marketing and studio stuff.
Well, 4 is like its own thing because it takes place completely in the future and doesn't really
Salvation,
yeah. That's the 4th one,
right? But it's called Salvation.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The 5th one's
the
called
3rd one's Rise of the Machines.
Genesis.
Yeah. Anyway, the 4th one, you know, kind of stands on its own, so I'm not sure that this movie would contradict 4 necessarily.
Right.
5, on the other hand, is just a jumbled time travel
wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, not bunch of
timey-wimey
insanity. So,
well, I will say that from this new trailer / featurette, because it was kind of split in half, that it was really cool that they showed the R rating right away. They had Tim Miller openly cuss, and they had Linda Hamilton cuss as Sarah Connor, and then they had a machine gun. T-800 had a machine gun to the new Terminator, like maybe an inch from his nose, and he was just like firing every bullet at his face, and it was so cool to just watch skin start flying off and the metal start flying off. And
so it's a little different than the Shazam scene, right, where he gets shot in the face.
Oh, it was a lot different. Okay. It was a lot different. Okay.
Apparently we're having issues with the stream.
Yeah,
we're trying to sort those out real quick here.
Just keep talking. We'll just have to deal with the stream as
I am.
Okay. That was my creative choice to bring that up, so
yeah,
you can blame me.
Okay, so we will also be preparing for Dark Fate by watching Terminator and Judgment Day later on in November. So join us for that episode as well. We'll give you plenty of heads up. Next on our list, let's talk Watchmen.
Yes.
How are you feeling about it, Ryan?
This trailer was better than the first trailer. Or was the first trailer even a trailer or a teaser? I don't remember.
No, it was a full trailer. Well, I mean, it's hard for me to judge. I feel like 2.5 minutes is a decent trailer nowadays, and that's what it was.
Is that what the first one was, or this one?
The first one was about 2.5 minutes. This one was about 3 minutes of all new stuff.
I felt like the first one you didn't really get a sense of what the whole story was. Right. This one you definitely did, but I'm still not grasping. This one takes place after?
Well after.
The graphic novel.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So Rorschach is, they're wearing Rorschach masks as a symbol rather than him actually being alive because he's...
Because Adrian Veidt is, it looks like an elected official at this point, and he's super old.
Okay.
Jeremy Irons is continuing Matthew Good's character.
Right.
And Dr. Manhattan's living on Mars.
So,
yeah, kudos for the use of life on Mars, but it's a little on the nose for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, David Bowie in any trailer is a good sign. I hope they don't actually use that in the show. Like, it's fine for a trailer. Also, Dr. Manhattan shows up. At the end?
Yeah.
Yeah,
to assume that's Dr. Manhattan. I guess it could be a red herring. But
it's just one of the Blue Man Group.
Yeah.
It is incredibly weird that they're celebrating him. I wonder what has changed because,
they saved the world.
It's
so.
Following the comics.
Right.
It's not following the movie.
Correct.
Got it.
Even though it may
He's the bad guy in the movie.
Similar.
Yeah.
It's going to be very confusing, I think, for a lot of people because, like, aesthetically, this looks like it was made in the same universe as the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Rorschach's masks and things like that are exactly the same, than from
They
the
didn't
film.
have eye holes in the film.
No, but he also has moved and stuff. But my point is that like these look like they connect to each other, so I think it'll be a hard sell to tell people that this is a sequel to the graphic novel comic and not the film.
Yeah.
I think that's confusing.
So
Yeah.
how do you guys feel about the newer characters, specifically Regina Hall's and Don Johnson's? I mean, they're playing completely new characters, and they look like to be the leads. Both of them are cops, it seems.
It's hard to have much of an opinion here because if you removed the Watchmen connections, which are really just the Rorschach masks and
Dr.
Dr. Manhattan, if you just remove those two elements, nothing and the Bowie song, because that's kind of unfair. Nothing else really grabs me about the trailer. I don't really know what it's about. I don't really know what it is.
No, and we had that problem with the first trailer too.
Yeah.
But this one, you at least get to know now that okay, the struggle is that cops are wearing masks and that superheroes or vigilantes, whatever, are also wearing masks, and people can't tell the difference between bad guys and good guys and cops because they're all wearing masks. And that's the struggle, which, that's at least something.
That's fair.
But yeah, it's hard to see that it's even related to Watchmen.
Right.
If you take away the Rorschach masks and
Yeah,
Dr. Manhattan.
you remove the iconography, and it's a separate story on
Just
on
looks
its
like
own.
a weird period piece.
Mhm.
Yeah, it still could be great.
I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, I already subscribed to HBO, so why not? But
Well, it'll be on HBO Max, which will, I guess, apparently include DC Universe stuff. So I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll end up with that service.
So while we're on DC, we could just segue to other stuff. We found out today that Doom Patrol is going to come back to for season 2, but it's moving to HBO Max.
So
it's not moving. It's a dual release.
Oh,
which
cool.
is super
Platforms.
weird.
That's
it's simultaneous was the word they used to release on HBO Max and DC Universe, which
means to me the
odd.
DC Universe is going away probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's got to mean that, right? I
Or
mean,
they're just going to use it as like a comic service, and any DC related media that they would put on HBO Max will also go there.
because so if you buy the yearly subscription to it, which is the discounted rate, you do get discounts to their store, which has exclusive items and things like that. So it's kind of a weird curated thing that is more than a streaming service,
Right.
but I'm not sure it's any of that extra is anything people really asked for or are interested in. I'd be very curious to know if people really buy stuff off of there. But I think it's going to be confusing for people to have two places to look for these things. And if you pay for HBO Max, do you get DC Universe, or am I going to have to pay for
I'm
two
going to
different
guess
services?
you get all the shows, but none of the comic books or discount in the store.
Okay.
I
That's what I would
maintain
assume, but-
this is just a long line of WB has no idea what to do with DC. And honestly, at this point, I kind of want them to sell DC. I feel like somebody...
But
Who's
it's
gonna
better the
buy
devil
it?
you know than the devil
I
you
do
don't
not
know.
want Disney to take it, but I don't know who else would do it at this point. I don't have, maybe Sony, maybe Paramount. I have no idea who would be better. I don't have another option. It's just WB has
Derek
been
should buy it.
fucking up DC for the last 10 years, and I'm kind of done with it. I'm just...
So
wanna-
Paramount is interesting
Thank you.
because they're owned by Viacom,
Yes,
who also owns CBS.
I totally knew that.
And they're all together. So what's interesting there is Viacom split up CBS and Paramount
Right.
almost 20 years ago now. And maybe not that long. But either way, there's been a lot of murmurs and rumors and talk about maybe the two being merged back together. One of the reasons cited is the confusion with Star Trek having two timelines because of that split. CBS has handled the launch of their streaming service surprisingly well, given the minimal amount of content that they've provided for it.
Yeah.
So maybe that wouldn't be such a bad place.
I mean, this is all conjecture. It's
It
probably not gonna
Absolutely.
happen,
It's,
of course.
so.
This is just us speculating on ways to solve a problem that is ongoing. We can move to good DC news, or we can stick with HBO. What do you guys want to do?
Well, I mean, Doom Patrol coming back is good news. I'm excited for that. I'm glad that they're giving it.
That
an
was such a
additional opportunity.
weird,
Hopefully
fun
they give it a little bit more budget
show.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they really need it, but they could do some even crazier stuff with it.
Mhm.
Bigger clumps of hair for the beard guy to eat.
He's dead. He died.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, but he can
that
come
girl
back.
killed him.
He can come back.
Ugh, Dorothy killed him. It was amazing.
He can come back.
No, pass.
I mean, most of the DC news was really the CW.
And that stuff was really cool.
I don't know how CW is able to continue to pull this stuff out of their ass because the types of budgets that they're given just doesn't compare to the major networks, and it continues to impress.
Well, so we didn't see anything new from Legends, but they recently also did an EW photo shoot. All the stuff was released, and the covers did include White Canary, Katie Lotz. So Legends is obviously coming back. They really want to focus on the Crisis news, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I mean, they ddid release, I think, sizzle reels / trailers for most of their shows, but
yeah, the only ones that didn't have it were Batwoman because they released a good trailer a little while back, and Legends. But Arrows, Flash.
I didn't watch Flashes, but Arrows was mostly just like scenes from previous seasons with like 3 seconds of the new season. Black Canary gets a new suit.
Black Lightning was a lot similar to that as well. It had a lot of wrap up, but I think the new stuff is probably from the first 2 episodes of Black Lightning. It looked very fresh. It was starting
and
a
they're
new
still
story.
not bringing Black Lightning into the Crisis on Infinite
Nope.
Earths, which is a little weird. But
So disappointing.
Yeah, that's a missed opportunity. But
Mhm.
that's where it gets confusing because they do these amazing things. Like Brandon Routh is going to be playing the Atom and Superman.
Kingdom Come Superman.
Yeah.
They're
Which
all
is
Supermans.
like just amazingly cool because while people know I've trashed on Superman Returns, the film, quite a lot, I've never trashed him. I didn't think there was any
He
issue
was not
with
the
him.
problem with that.
Yeah.
The problem was Bryan Singer tried to make a sepia toned romance film a la like Humphrey Bogart and Kate Bacall and could not nail it down.
I mean,
because-
that's one of the issues.
It's true, but Kate Bosworth has like the charisma of mayonnaise, and
But like Kevin Spacey
It's-
totally
oh.
phones in that
Oh,
Lex
yeah.
Luthor. It might be the
Oh, yeah.
worst Lex Luthor incarnation we've had. I really
Did he
think
force any Jolly Ranchers?
I
in
think
people's
there's
mouth?
huge competition with Jesse Eisenberg. In fact, I want to see the two of them go at it in a Luthor off.
Nobody would watch that.
all right, well, I don't want to go
It'd be
down that rabbit
horrible.
hole. But
Bring
other
Jolly
cool
Ranchers
things,
for 'em.
though. Other cool things.
Yeah.
Um,
Burt Ward, Linda Carter,
and Tom Welling.
and Tom Welling were announced to come back for Crisis. They've all played classic characters in the past: Superman, Wonder Woman, and Robin.
So that's all really cool. It's very
Mhm.
exciting.
Seems likely that John Wesley Shipp will probably be in it as well.
I
Oh, yeah.
imagine. Yeah. I'd be a little surprised if he wasn't.
Mark Guggenheim also said that there's a chance that a fan theory for Diggle will finally come true.
That's great. There's so many
That
of them,
there's
and
gonna
I'm
be a Green
actually
Lantern version of him.
I'm actually good that I'm good
They
with
actually-
Diggle getting more.
I'm going to say something that'll spoil it, but they already heavily hinted at that at one point in one of the shows.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean,
You guys haven't gotten to that point yet, but
as people know, I'm totally on board with Diggle being a Green Lantern. I don't want it to be like this tiny little one-off nonsense that's not going to impact anything.
well, if
That's what I'm worried
if
about.
Arrow's ending, they can get rid of Amel. And,
he's already out, and
right?
she's already out too.
Right.
Emily Bett Rickards
Thank-
or whatever.
yeah, thank goodness. But
Yeah, please, like, you
Diggle
wanna
needs a job, man.
give him his
CW
own
doesn't have the budget for a
for
Green Lantern show.
Probably not. But
They could ground him. You don't have to have Green Lantern on Oa. You could do Green Lantern on Earth.
his power set is
Yeah,
very
it's gonna be-
expensive.
It's no more expensive than the stuff they've pulled off in Supergirl and Flash. Like, he gets an aura and flying powers that's clearly Flash and Supergirl.
Sure, but
like,
then
they got this.
His main ability is the constructs.
They
though.
got this. They can do this. They have
I
only
want them
got-
to do it.
they have only gotten more money as time goes on.
I don't know why we're on the same
Yeah.
side. So yeah.
Okay, then Flash got a whole new trailer, lots of new stuff being shown. One of the guys from Heroes is playing the villain in this one, and it looks like he's playing Death, like a Grim Reaper type
I
character.
know Godspeed was.
Well,
they've already-
they've hinted at too. They've shown Godspeed in the white.
Well, he was
suit,
already in the last
but-
season, and then they've been set photos of him of Flash fighting Godspeed.
Right.
Interesting.
For
That's
this
kinda cool.
season that's filming right
It's a
now.
cool
but
looking
I don't know
suit,
if he's
but-
the overall
Yeah.
the arcing villain for the.
I mean, Death is in the comics.
Yeah.
So that would be
Isn't that
interesting.
basically what Zoom was?
Well,
Black Flash or whatever?
No, because like Death is like legitimately like actually death in form. And the idea is that no one can outrun death. Everybody dies, kind of allegory in the comics.
Right, but so he's going to die then?
Well, no. I mean,
So not everybody dies.
that doesn't. Eventually, Flash dies.
Supergirl got a
He
new
just
shoe.
doesn't die when he's 30. Like, we've talked about her.
Yeah,
She's
we
wearing
talked about her
pants.
We talked about it
I
last
know.
week.
Okay. So we can move on.
She just wanted to kill that conversation. I get it.
That's fine.
I'm trying to watch time too.
What else we
like,
got?
okay, so we can go back to HBO. HBO Max is also debuting his Dark Materials. The Golden Compass was adapted in 2007, but because of all the issues with religious groups, it was protested heavily, never made enough money at the box office, and a sequel was dropped pretty quickly, even though Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman helmed it. So now they're adapting it with Ruth Wilson and Lin-Manuel Miranda, Daphne Keane from Logan, and James McAvoy is a big pull here. And
Yeah, I watched the trailer. I didn't know anything about it.
Mhm.
I didn't know it was the Golden Compass.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you if it's like the kids can control animals or what the deal
So,
is. Like, the trailer, for somebody that doesn't know anything about it, the trailer doesn't really do anything other than show the actors. I didn't really get any sense of the story.
So in this world, everybody has a animal familiar, and until you
Okay.
reach like
Level 3.
puberty,
Oh.
like teenage, your animal can change from different animals, the appearance of it, kind of figuring out your personality. And Daphne Keene's character, she refuses to grow up and have her animal reach maturity, so it's constantly shape-shifting.
So then,
That seems like an advantage, I would think.
It is, but adults don't like that. Adults don't like that she's not making a decision. She's being
Adults are
like
stupid.
every single adult here has a plan for her, and nobody's involving her in the truth. Nobody's telling her the truth.
That sounds right.
yeah.
It's a very dark story, and
'Cause I thought the Golden Compass was a kids movie.
that it was a kids. It's not a kids story though. It's very anti-organization, very anti-organized religion. It's gonna be an intense show, and they're gonna adapt all 3 books throughout 6 seasons, I think.
I mean, the Golden Compass the movie was kind of designed to go up against the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series.
Yeah.
The Narnia.
And it shouldn't have
And-
been.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bad marketing type thing
Very.
for not understanding the source material very well.
Yeah.
But it looked good. It looked very interesting. I'm curious about
Yeah,
it.
I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'll watch it or not, but I guess if it gets good reviews and you guys say it's good, I'll probably watch it.
It's definitely on my list. Another show on my list I'm going to briefly touch on. I think I'll be the only one here to watch it. Amazon Prime is debuting later
The Boys.
this fall.
Oh.
Well, August 30th too, is Carnival Row. It's a world where humans and fantasy creatures live together, and eventually we hit the point where there's a war between the two, and it's more of a social war, kind of like what we see in our own streets.
So
I
there's,
think the dragons would win.
there's
just gonna say.
segregation.
So like Bright, but not from the
It's
perspective
19
of a
Unless
couple
Will
of cops.
It's 1910s.
Okay,
It's Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne star.
interesting.
She's a fairy. He is a
Pirate.
human detective.
I was thinking elf,
And yeah,
This opportunity.
they are rounding up fantasy creatures and
Okay.
deporting them.
Hmm.
So
Very relevant to our society.
I'll be watching that, and I'll fill you guys in as we go.
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
Let's see here. Let's talk about some other movie trailers. You guys want to talk about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot?
Sure.
It has every actor ever in it.
Kevin Smith called in all the favors.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you were ever in a Kevin Smith movie and you're not in this movie, you did something wrong.
Yeah, he
Right?
hates you for some reason.
With the
Yeah.
exception of Anderson, the guy who from Clerks, who plays Dante, he doesn't want to do it.
Brian O'Halloran?
But Brian, why did I say Anderson?
I don't
I was
know.
drawing a blank on his name.
Brian O'Halloran is Dante.
He doesn't want to do the character anymore, and it was a big deal just to get Clerks 2 to happen. So
That's too bad. He's trying to write Clerks 3 as we speak.
yeah.
But it's Kevin Smith. He's been trying to write this movie for a long time too. So
Right. But it's a fun concept. So for those who don't know, the premise is people want to reboot the movie that the first Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was about.
Blunt Man and Chronic.
Yeah. So that's kind of a fun. They want to reboot the movie, and they're going to try and stop the reboot of the movie they tried to stop.
clearly, it's supposed to be Batman v Superman.
Right.
A little bit, yeah.
So surprise, I guess, castings there. Melissa Benoist.
Yeah,
is
no
Chronic,
surprise because they
which
get along really well on Supergirl if you've
Yeah.
watched any of his live streams or anything.
And that's why I wanted to start with that one because that one's not as shocking.
Yeah.
But
The
Blunt
other
Man-
one is Val Kilmer.
Which, man, okay, so I love Val Kilmer. We all do.
We all
but
do.
He had throat cancer recently,
Yeah.
and his voice is nothing like it was. It's very weird now, and
I think that's the reason why they left him out of the Top Gun Maverick trailer.
yeah,
He's on this movie. He's in there.
That's what I
but-
mean. Like, how are they
Well-
going to do that? How are they going to deal with that? Like, is he just not going to talk in this movie?
well,
Are they going to dub his voice?
his voice may have gotten better as he's rehabilitated.
It's
They
possible.
might dub over it. You're right. They might modify it in some way.
Yeah, I mean, Batman did have a voice changer. The character he's playing is clearly a reference
Right.
to had a voice changer. So,
So they could do something like that.
but they can't do that in Top Gun.
Well, no, Top Gun. Man, that was one of the most boring trailers I have ever watched in my life.
That was, oh my God. So I am all fine and dandy with going back to the well because, if you think Hollywood has a problem now, all the 1930s and 40s movies were ripoffs of like silent films. So like it's been a problem for a while. But does Tom Cruise need a paycheck that badly? That movie did not look interesting.
No, but he does want to get paid to learn to fly a jet.
That's,
and
I mean, yeah.
That's
okay.
really what it comes down to is that he enjoys his job.
Clearly.
And if they're going to pay him, what they continue to pay him, he'll just continue to do it. And he might have really had a good time. And the movie may be really good because trailers can be misleading. And this trailer was a little too artsy for what Top Gun originally was.
Yeah.
Like there's some gorgeous shots.
fan service in there too with the shirtless volleyball scene again.
There's a little bit of fan
It's
service.
funny how
but
that
that's
always
not bad.
happens.
Fan service isn't bad.
Tom
necessarily,
Cruise likes
but-
showing off his body. He appears shirtless in most of his
Sure,
films.
it's just like,
He
do we need to
does.
can we do like a shirtless soccer game or something? Like, does it have to be?
That was a
beach
callback
volleyball?
to the first
I
movie.
know, but
Like it
geez.
wasn't. I don't think it's eye candy anymore if they're like 55, 60 years old. I think it's a callback for the first
It's a little
movie.
both.
I think we just need a trailer that's a little more action packed, a little more intense.
I'll say that the dogfighting or whatever it was showing of the air stuff in the jets was beautiful and very
Yeah.
well cut. Like it
It's
was
gorgeous.
not like super chopped up. You got some really beautiful shots of and it didn't look like movie. It looked like what I would expect it looks like in real life.
Here's my worry. I think the plot of this movie is Cars 3.
Yeah, because it deals with Goose's son. They didn't bring back Meg Ryan, which would be, Goose's wife. But
Yeah.
okay.
Are they using Kenny Loggins' song
I think
outside
that-
of the trailer?
If Kenny Loggins didn't write the entire soundtrack, I'm already out.
Yeah.
It sounds like the main premise here is that, Maverick doesn't want to be promoted. He doesn't want to have a desk job. It's
very Kirk of him.
It is, but he wants to be in the cockpit. He wants to fly. He doesn't want to be at a desk, and that's what it's going to be about.
But he's
him.
aging out at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's aging out. The planes are aging out. How is he going to keep up with and beat the modern
The
thing,
new
which is
Iceman.
what Cars 3 is?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not
And
saying
that's
that
always been
bad.
done before, besides Cars 3.
Of course,
so.
of course. I was just using a relatively recent
Cars
example.
2 is better anyway. I'm just kidding.
Wow, dude.
I know how to get to Derek.
Oh my God.
Anyway, moving on.
So it 2, it part 2, it and a half, whatever you guys want to call it.
It's just chapter 2.
Oh yeah, that's right. Chapter 2. Sorry, I forgot. That new trailer for that dropped.
I didn't watch it on purpose.
Oh, okay. That's
I don't
fair.
want to see any more of it until I see it in theaters.
It looks absolutely fun and horrifying, and I'm very excited for it. James McAvoy, again, second time he's appeared in our episode, and he just looks like he's killing it. That dude is on a roll.
Yeah, he's very popular. He's definitely A-list caliber at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But when it comes to movies like this, I just want to be surprised in the theater, so I don't want to see too much.
So I liked the first It movie. I never saw the old miniseries. I never really been a fan. But Marcy, my girlfriend, is a big Stephen King fan. And so I asked her what she thought about this trailer, which is way more relevant than what I think. And she said she's curious because Stan in the book commits suicide when he finds out Pennywise is back.
Yes.
But they did cast an adult actor for him. And there's only 6 adults in the group shot versus the 7 kids.
Yes.
So she's curious if that happens in the movie.
That's a good point.
She said there's also a love scene in the trailer between Bev and Bill, whereas in the books she ends up with Ben.
Yep.
So, and she was also curious about the mirror maze scene because she couldn't tell if James McAvoy was yelling like it was his son or something, but it seems like he was just yelling kid.
Yeah.
So it's not somebody he knows or is related to.
Interesting.
But anyway.
Sorry.
I don't know how they've made red balloons so frightening, but they have the scene with the bridge and you see just the thousands of balloons floating up. I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of blood coming, isn't it? That's a lot of death. But I'm determined to do a Pennywise costume this year because I just love it.
Do you think they use the same algorithm technology as Up for the balloons in it?
Definitely.
I really hope they're digital because releasing that many into the air is very bad for the environment. Please don't do that.
See, I think I have something broken in my head because nothing in this trailer looks scary to me.
That's
the
fine.
only part that seemed like it could be relatively scary was the part where he was a real person and bleeding from under his eyes and stuff at the very end.
That looks
cool. It was
cool.
just straight Bill Skarsgård or Skars. That's who it is, right? Yeah.
Skarsgård.
And so that looked like it might be a little scary, but the actual Pennywise stuff doesn't scare me at all. I just find it cool. It's an interesting character.
So you've never seen the Tim Curry?
I did end up watching it after I watched the original, the first version, or first part of this movie, and liking it. And I thought I wasn't scared by the Tim Curry version. Of course, now it's all dated effects.
It doesn't hold up as well as I thought it might, because I saw it when I was a kid.
It does, that spider or whatever it was at the end was.
I watched
rough.
it when I was 10, and my sister came in and started watching it, and I was laughing the entire time because I thought it was hilarious. And my sister still is afraid of clowns because of that movie.
Which is crazy to me watching it now because I'm like, how could this terrify someone so much? But
it was the scene in the bathroom where he pops up through the
that was a little weird.
Yeah,
I could imagine if you saw that as a kid that would probably traumatize you quite a bit. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Speaking of traumatizing things, there's another trailer that released.
Okay, so the plot of Cats, guys.
I was like, where are we going with this?
T.S. Eliot wrote poems for his godchildren about cats in the 1930s. Andrew Lloyd Webber did a lot of cocaine, read those poems, and was like, okay, I'm going to adapt them into a musical. The producer was like, okay, so we can use this as an allegory for sadness and depression. We'll have a cast of 5. And Andrew Lloyd Webber is like, no. Give me a week. I'll come back with a story. So he leaves. He and about a dozen people do more cocaine.
It was popular.
And say,
Same place it came from, really.
I want 24 cast members all dressed up as cats. I've got 18 songs, and the plot is one cat gets to go to cat heaven on a UFO every year, and that's it. That's the plot. So don't tell me I'm not cultured because I don't like cats. That shit is bananas, and that trailer is frightening.
Yeah.
So I mean, I saw the trailer, and I guess I didn't have any expectations really because I didn't
even know it was a
the
thing.
Musical. I knew that they were making it. I didn't realize it was coming out so soon. And I've never seen the musical, so I didn't have much of a frame of reference. And I thought it looked fine. There's a few characters specifically that I think look silly.
What's Rebel Wilson?
Yeah. Rebel Wilson looks weird. I want to say that James Corden looks weird.
He looks like the Cat in the Hat.
Jennifer Hudson looks really weird.
I don't agree there. I thought those were the only 2 that I thought looked weird or bad. I thought everybody else looked fine. People are making they're specifically picking on like what Ian McKellen looked like. Like, it looks like him with fur on his face. Like, what did you think they were going to look like?
So my biggest problem is like the cat bodies, because like, so
The boobs?
yeah, boobs are gone, but then they have like really human butts with the tail coming out.
Rebel Wilson still has a giant pair of cans for some reason.
They tried to flatten them out, it looks like.
Well, because the main woman is a ballerina, so she has a fairly like
ballerina shape still.
Right.
I mean, ballerinas are not known to be curvy, of course, but they're still, feminine and wear very tight clothing, and that's what she did on set. Like, this show has been going on for 3 decades now. It's been all over the world. It's made $2 billion on Broadway. The costumes were fine. These people can do these.
I mean,
numbers.
Andy in The Office looked better in his cat's costume than this show looks.
I think we're
This movie.
past the time where you can just record a musical and call it a movie. I don't think people want to see that anymore.
Well, one, that's the only way that I'm going to get to see certain musicals. Like, that was the only way I got to see Newsies.
It would be great if they use something like Fathom Events to stream the actual musicals, right? That would
make
be
a
one
lot
thing.
less money with that, though.
I mean, maybe, but maybe not, because
They have star power in this that they couldn't have if they were.
That's not, I don't mean instead of this.
Okay.
I'm saying that I think that people would watch that, but when a movie is pitched and it's a movie and it's not the actual musical cast, I think there's a different set of expectations.
Okay, so remove all the sculpting from the Dark Crystal. We're just looking at the costuming that people sewed. Why couldn't they have taken that level of costuming and practical effects and used it? And
probably
they
budget.
were.
The Dark Crystal TV show has a better budget.
No,
But you're getting rid of the CGI instead, which Tom Hooper said he threw millions into because it was a new kind of CGI technology. So I
Not
just,
a good kind. I don't. They
I just don't know. Like, these people have been performing this play for 30 years now and doing just fine in the costumes. And here, it's not even live, so you can take the stuff off.
Maybe it's the cast. I don't know. Maybe when you cast more big name actors, they're not professional musical people. They're not professional dancers and things like that.
I don't know.
I'm just spitballing.
So I did ask my girlfriend about this, what she thought too, because she's more familiar with musicals than I am. She did say she hasn't seen this since she was 5.
Okay.
But she said that she had something nagging at her, so she looked it up. She said Grisabella, which is Jennifer Hudson's character,
Yes.
is supposed to be a homeless and scruffy outcast, but in
Yes.
this trailer she was wearing jewels and furs for some reason. So that was bothering her.
See, that's an inconsistency I would not have been aware of.
I wasn't either, but that's an interesting. That's
Grisabella is supposed to look really disgusting. She's supposed to be overweight and unkempt and completely discarded.
That's a pretty huge change.
And then the big song Memory, the only song that people tend to remember from this musical. It's like,
I had no idea it was from Cats until I watched this trailer.
that
honestly.
song has grown larger than this musical. And she sings it twice, once at the end of the first act, once at the end of the second act, and she, spoilers, convinces the rest of the cats to send her up to cat heaven.
They murder her.
No, she gets to ride a UFO. Sometimes it's an actual UFO in the play. Sometimes it's a giant ass tire. Sometimes
Maybe it's like that
she gets to
cow
climb
game.
stairs.
Remember the cow jumping phone game where you go all the way up to the
I don't
alien?
Yeah,
remember
there you
that.
go.
But okay.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's going to be a weirder movie than it.
Okay, so
Or more unbelievable, anyway.
What else we got?
Marvel.
I
think we're up to Marvel now. Phase 4, guys.
Do you want to? Well, it depends. Do you want to end on something big like Marvel, or do you want to end on smaller stuff?
Oh, let's talk Star Trek then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small stuff.
Well, it's smaller than Marvel. I mean, let's be honest here.
So we got to see a lot from Lower Decks, and we got to see a lot from
So
Picard.
we got to see some pictures.
We
Sorry, I apologize. We
got
got to
to
see
see-
more than what we had.
Right. So there's an official logo for so Lower Decks is the animated show. It's an animated comedy coming to CBS All Access in spring of 2020. We got to see what it looks like. No actual moving animation, but we got to see what the character designs are, the main cast, and we got to see the voice actors who they're going to be. looks cool, looks nice. I like the design. Actually, the uniforms look cool. They're very diverse. I think that looks really neat.
And so that's going to be on the streaming service
Yes.
too. So none of the Star Trek shows are going to be on any kind of television.
No. So the Nickelodeon show will be on Nickelodeon.
Okay.
But that one was not talked about much at SDCC. So Nickelodeon is partnering with CBS to do a CGI Star Trek cartoon directed at younger audiences, like 10 and younger, and has a totally different kind of premise and things like that. So that is a separate thing that will be on Nickelodeon. But unless otherwise noted, everything is supposed to be on CBS All Access. So the main thing was that, we got some footage about season 3 of Discovery. So we know they're filming that. And we know that things don't quite go the way they wanted them to go at the end of the season, so they don't end up where
Is it because they had 2 showrunners?
No.
Oh.
No, like the crew doesn't end up where they thought they were going type of thing. So there's some interesting
Are
possibilities.
we getting
there.
lost in space?
Kind of.
That's fun.
Kind of. So that's cool. We learned a lot about Short Trek season 2. So Short Treks is the short form Star Trek episodes that started last year for the first time ever. They did 4 of them. They ranged from about 10 minutes and change to like 18 minutes and change, I think.
I have to say, that is one of the best ideas, and it's something that we've been wanting from Marvel, because all of us enjoyed the one-shots that got put on the DVDs, on the Blu-rays, and they just stopped after like the middle of phase
Iron Man
2.
3, I think was the last one, wasn't it?
Which is such a disappointment, because the extra content is fantastic, and like the short treks were all very interesting, and I loved them. So I'm a big fan of this.
They were super cool, and most of them actually tied into the full Discovery show, which was neat. So we know we're going to get some animated ones. There's going to be several that are animated. There's going to be at least one that plugs into the Picard show.
There looks like there's at least 2 or 3 that have to deal with Pike and number 1 and Spock.
Yes, and in fact, there's one in particular that has number 1 and Spock trapped in a turbo lift together.
And number 1 is the dog, right? Picard's dog?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
And there's going to be a lot of jokes about him taking number 2, so it'll be cute. Okay. Number 1 is Rebecca Romijn's character.
But it's not Picard's dog. That's not his Picard's dog.
So for those who don't know, in the original pilot for the original Star Trek, the first officer was only referred to as number 1. She was never given a name in the show. She was played by Majel Barrett, who was Gene Roddenberry's wife, and she ended up returning as Nurse Chapel, and then later Lwaxana Troy and
the
TNG
computer.
And later, and she was the voice of the computers. So,
but also the dog in Picard is also named number 1.
So when she returned in Discovery, people thought she would get a name. She kind of sort of gets one at the very tail end, but it's ambiguous as to whether or not it's a translation issue, and it's just another word for 1.
I hate it. If her real name is Una, I'm going to be very upset.
There seems to be some discrepancy on whether or not that was on purpose. And then, yes, in the Picard show, he has a dog, a pit bull, who wears a dog tag that's a Delta shield from Star Trek and says number 1 on it. And yes, the dog will be referred to as number 1, which is hilarious because on the show in Next Gen, Picard constantly called Will Riker number 1. Thank you for coming to my Trek talk.
He named his dog William, he named it Riker, or he has grown to really dislike Riker now.
So the big thing was the Picard show. So we got our first trailer for Picard. We had a very short teaser before, but we got our first full-blown trailer.
It is so cool.
Lots of interesting stuff in there. We get to see that several characters are returning. Brent Spiner is returning in the form of Data and B4, and that's a complicated story. Jerry Ryan is returning as 7 of 9.
She looks great.
And we know that Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis will both be returning, even though they were not in the trailer, which is cool. So we will see Riker and Troy, which I think surprised a lot of people. One character who a lot of people aren't aware of that's returning to the show. So the show is going to focus somewhat on the Borg. You get to see a fairly damaged Borg cube in a short moment, and Jerry Ryan's involvement as 7 of 9 probably has to do with that as well. There's a character in TNG named Hugh, and he is a Borg who becomes self-aware and disconnects from the hive and everything like that. And that actor, Jonathan Del Arco, is returning for Picard, which is really neat because this is a pretty deep cut for people. I think a lot of casual people will miss this connection.
Well, out of all the people they could invite back, like, how cool is it that they just picked this side character? And because it's so easy, you could pick from DS9, Voyager, and TNG, anybody that you wanted to.
Yeah, but it seems dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Patrick Stewart is definitely playing a much older version of Picard. He's no longer in Starfleet. And he has to kind of get a ragtag team together to complete this mission, because there's a shot where he's asking, you know, for Starfleet to help this person. And I'm assuming they say no. And it's another Star Trek Insurrection or Star Trek 3 where they just say, you know, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves kind of thing. And they do. But we'll get more as time goes on. It's still supposed to be a 2019 release.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. That's pretty much it, I think, for Star Trek news.
So now, Marvel?
Sure.
Let's do it. Okay. So this weekend we got a lot of Marvel news. They dropped all their Phase 4 plans. First of all, Phase 4 is only going to be 2 years long, and this is because they are flat out counting the shows, 4 shows on the Disney Plus network as part of the phase, as opposed to everything that's appeared on ABC, Netflix, that have not been considered part of the phases before.
They're definitely not now.
Absolutely not. Like, they're probably going to even be ignored with some of the casting they did this weekend.
Yeah. Not canon at all, I would say, for sure.
So
at least part of the multiverse.
MCU had a panel on its own where Feige appeared, and Black Widow had a panel of their own. So they had their entire cast there. It includes Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, and includes David Harbour, who is playing Taskmaster, and they released concept art, so he will be wearing a costume. Florence Pugh is on to play Yelena Belova. Then Rachel Weisz is also joining the cast in some kind of mystery
they didn't
role.
confirm that David Harbour was playing Taskmaster. They gave Alexei, they said, is what his name is.
That's kind of funny.
It
with
is funny,
Stranger
but
Things.
I mean, from what I watched, he was called Alexei.
I was pretty
and
sure he
there's
was.
nothing they said about the Taskmaster.
That's fair.
Unless I missed part of it, but from what
That's
I watched,
totally fair.
they just introduced him as Alexei. And he came out with a Captain America shirt on and said he had a very complicated relationship with Captain America. So some people think that he's going to be whatever the Russian version of Captain America was, I guess, because they think that they're setting up a Dark Avengers storyline.
That's neat.
But I don't know. They did release. I mean, Taskmaster's obviously in the movie because they had concept art for it. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe he is playing him, but they didn't say that.
There is another man attached to the project, and I don't know who he's playing.
It's hard to say at this point, but David Harbour is awesome, and he's thrilled. He's so excited when he was up on stage. He couldn't contain his excitement for being a part of the project. So that's something I always like about, even with Hellboy, which turned out to not be very good. He was not the problem with that.
No.
And he was super excited about it.
And he jokes about how it failed or bombed.
Yeah, he's disappointed, I think. But
so Phase 4 officially kicks off May 1st, 2020 with Black Widow. Which is a little bit later than I thought. I actually thought we'd see the movie in Q1, but
I thought we'd see one of the shows with Disney Plus premiering, but maybe What If? But
well, they're really leaning on The Mandalorian, I think.
Yeah.
For Disney Plus, along with their back catalog. So.
Oh yeah, dropping the entire Disney animated canon and Pixar on day one. It's gonna be intense.
And almost all Marvel's gonna be there.
Most
right?
of them,
Just Ragnarok and Infinity War.
Captain Marvel is going to be there, and I think a few others will join a few months later. So we also got Shang-Chi.
The Legend of the Ten Rings, or is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Simu Liu is playing Shang-Chi, and Awkwafina is part of the cast as well. The real Mandarin will be appearing as at least one of the villains, if not the only big bad in this. So that's really cool.
It's very cool. I mean, they started using the Ten Rings in the very first Iron Man movie, so before they even knew it was going to be a universe, there were references to the Ten Rings. So it's kind of cool to see that finally start to come out.
Yeah.
That's a little ways off. That's not until February of 2021. Did you say the Eternals? Did we skip that
No,
one?
the Eternals will be in 2020 as well,
Yeah,
and
November.
that's got an insane cast: Richard Madden and Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek.
It's just weird because nobody knows anything about the Eternals. So
They're such an odd group. It's kind of like how everybody felt about the Guardians before this. We'll start seeing them in the animated stuff. They'll pop up, the new comics and things. If you have a chance, there's a 6-issue run Neil Gaiman did in the late 2000s that was really great and was my introduction to the Eternals. It did really well. I had just read his 1602 and wanted to continue his stuff, and he did a 6-issue Eternal, so you can check that out. Incredibly diverse. They're gonna have the first Latina hero in this. They're gonna have the first deaf hero in the MCU, so this is gonna be pretty neat all around. A lot of interesting things going on.
we also got Thor: Love and Thunder, which was
Yeah.
a pretty big reveal.
It was huge. Thor 4, like, we knew Taika Waititi was going to be back. James Gunn revealed that Guardians 3 is definitely happening, but he's not having a presence for it here because Suicide Squad 2 follows, or is going to come first. He did say that Thor 4 takes place timeline-wise before Guardians 3, so
Thor doesn't spend much time with the old Guardians there.
I bet you anything Star-Lord kicks him off the ship pretty fast.
I don't think Star-Lord really could kick him
Not-
off the ship,
yeah.
but yeah, I definitely think that there will be a scene at the very beginning of them dropping him off, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
But you get Jane Foster, Mighty Thor, I guess is what they're referring to her as,
I like
instead of
that.
Female Thor, which
That was the name
weird
of her
sounding.
comic, so I'm fine with that. I'm also good with Dr. Thor since she has many PhDs.
Oh yeah, I like that. I hadn't thought of that one.
Kind of like Dr. Mario.
Right,
Different
yeah.
power set.
And they're going to have Valkyrie be an LGBT character, I guess
Mhm.
the B maybe, or L. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
But,
Tessa
she's-
Thompson is a B in real life.
Well, that's not very nice to say about her.
Stop it. She's glorious and I love her. Hinting at, or saying that hints that they're actually going to show a relationship of some kind, which I would love it if Angela showed up. She's an Asgardian who represents the L. So
What
that
if
would be cool.
what if Jane Foster is the love
Yeah, I mean, that's
interest?
what I
Oh,
was thinking.
man.
Think of how that would
That's
actually
so
mess
great.
up.
That would
like,
mess with Thor.
yeah.
Right? Like, what would he do? I don't even know.
Well, that's when they introduce Amora, and that's the one woman on the planet or in the entire universe that he doesn't want.
Here's what I don't get: the hammer's destroyed.
Yeah.
How does she get the hammer?
Make lots of hammers.
They just made an extra
Or-
heart of a dying star to.
Or
Look, they made extra gauntlets. They made the Stormbreaker. They can make another hammer. Like, that doesn't seem like much of a stretch. To
I
me.
don't want to really screw with your guys' head. Could have just been a prop for the panel.
Well, but doesn't
Nope,
Mighty
it's real.
Thor?
That's the actual.
Doesn't Mighty
Mjolnir.
Thor in the comic books have
She
Mjolnir,
does
and that's how
have
she gets the
a
power
hammer.
of Thor?
Yeah, she does have a
But that's the
hammer,
thing, like,
guys.
of all the things that have happened in the MCU, making another hammer doesn't seem like a big deal.
Well, they made it a big deal with how special the hammer is when they're describing it.
Yeah,
So
but Stormbreaker seems more special.
does it?
Specialer.
No,
Specialer.
Sorry. It just seems
you don't
you
get
guys-
any extra power when you wield
Maybe-
Stormbreaker.
you
maybe-
guys get hung up on the weirdest.
Wait, maybe old man Cap gives it to her.
You should have heard
That's
us argue about
on
Derek.
her cancer deathbed.
No, to Jane.
Yeah, that's when she finds out. He
Oh,
becomes unworthy, drops it in the snow. She is going through chemo
gotcha.
and she figures out she can pick it up and she turns into this glorious she goddess. Had no idea that she could. And
Does she have to stay that way all the time, or if she has cancer and
no,
dies?
it's actually the complete opposite. The longer she's Thor, the more it progresses and the chemo won't work.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
I'm gonna get.
It would be the first superhero to have a disability in this that wasn't a mental one, like PTSD. It would be, never mind. I take that back because
Let's
Bucky
say.
had his arm cut off.
Yeah, and
So,
Eternals
think
also has a
about-
death.
Yeah, but think about how that might play out though. If she comes back, she gets to be Thor, but every time she's Thor, she's killing herself.
Yeah, she has
more.
she has a little more cancer.
That's not gonna go over well. With
Like they
people.
did it in the comics, okay? Like
Right.
I'm going
just
off
don't
of
see that
the
being a
one
Taika Waititi
thing,
storyline.
okay? The one thing. Like Love and Thunder sounds like it's gonna be a really fun movie, but also deal with some serious stuff. That's kind of where the thunder comes in, just like Ragnarok did. Like, so.
That would be a weird tone for a Taika Waititi movie. Somebody
Yeah.
that's like progressing cancer as they turn to Thor. But I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. It would just be an interesting.
Do you think Korg will be in it?
Yes. Yes.
If he's
I
directing
do.
it, Korg will be in it. Yes.
I do. As long as they're
Clearly.
not playing Fortnite.
God.
So Doctor Strange 2 is
Very
Electric
exciting.
Boogaloo.
yes, that movie looks great.
Multiverse of May.
Madness.
Mystery? Madness.
In the multiverse of madness.
Yeah.
Yes.
With Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
Yeah, the two of them are leading this movie. They're facing off against Nightmare. Look him up. He's a really cool villain.
They did actually say in the panel that the events of WandaVision lead directly into Doctor Strange.
Which
So
yeah.
So WandaVision has me completely confused now.
WandaVision has everybody confused.
Well, so we kept being told it was going to take place in the 50s.
No, it's the direct quote was 50s-esque. Housewife and husband kind of situation.
Okay.
Like,
I guess I'm confused when it takes place because
did you guys see
Monica Rambeau is going to be in it.
Paul
As a kid.
No.
No,
not
as an
a kid,
adult.
As an adult. She's already cast.
Oh.
full-blown adult?
So, like, I'm very confused about.
Well, I mean,
where
Scarlet Witch has
this-
reality manipulation powers, so I don't worry about that too. I
Yeah.
mean, they're gonna make it work somehow because her powers are so crazy.
They're gonna amp up her powers. Right now, we've just seen like extreme telekinesis. So,
Yeah.
I know.
did
but
you guys see Paul Bettany's like little bit? He
No.
and Elizabeth Olsen were on stage, and she was just smiling really big at him, like she's truly in love with this man. And he's like, "Look, guys, I don't know what the hell I'm doing either. Last I knew, I was in Infinity War and I died. I don't know why I'm back. Okay, so this show is gonna be a mind trip." And I'm cool with it.
And that's perfect for leading into Doctor Strange too.
Absolutely.
And they did say Doctor Strange 2 was going to be a straight up horror movie, the first horror movie in the Marvel universe, which when we talked about Doctor Strange before it came out, we were interested in it wanting it to be a horror movie. At least I was. I thought you guys might have talked about that too, but
no, genre crossover is something that it needs. You know,
and Doctor Strange is perfect for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with that villain.
The whole thing's just kind of weird, but they do kind of lead into each other. So WandaVision is spring 2021. Doctor Strange is May 7th, 2021. So I assume
They want you to watch
WandaVision's
that
gotta
show.
be done first. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're it seems like leaning heavily on the Disney Plus shows being connected.
Very much.
So they're trying to get all the Marvel fans to get Disney Plus, which obviously they want to do that. But
You might have to at this point
At
if
this
you
point,
want to
they've
know stuff.
killed basically all the Netflix shows are no longer canon, and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, maybe
This is their
probably
last
not.
season, right?
Well, no, they're on season 6 right now. They
Well-
get season 7,
Oh, okay.
but the things that are happening in the show are like they haven't the blip or whatever hasn't happened yet. Nobody's been dusted, so it's people don't know if this is like another multiverse and like another universe thing. I don't know. It's all very confusing.
Have the Netflix shows been contradicted by the MCU?
Yes, by the casting from this weekend.
In what way?
Because
what am I
the
forgetting?
actor that played Copperhead is now playing Blade.
Well, we've had other actors play multiple
Not
roles
a
in the
main
MCU.
character, named
Alfred Woodard
character,
has played two different
not
characters.
named characters from the comics.
I mean, I feel like that's splitting hairs a bit. An
I mean,
actor
he was
can
a
change-
villain for 6 episodes of the TV show. She was in 5 seconds of one movie.
but there's nothing in universe that contradicts them. It's just
That's in universe.
No, the actor is not in universe.
The same person.
But it's not the same person. They just
Okay.
look the same.
So Falcon and Winter Soldier.
The Falcon. And
The
Winter
Falcon
Soldier,
and
for
Winter
some reason.
Soldier. So Anthony Mackie was there, and he was on stage holding that shield like they were going to take it from him at some point. So
And he did say that they had done screen tests with the costume, so that's
Yes.
exciting.
It's far off though. It's a year away.
Daniel Bruhl's back. He is going to be playing Zemo again, and he gets some sort of a face mask this time.
Costume, yeah.
Probably not going to be bright, shiny purple with a silly
I
crown
kinda
on
hope
top.
it is. Maybe not with the silly crown, but I hope it's kind of a purple. At least, do
I do
something like
too.
that.
I do too. But yeah, that should be a very interesting story. I'm looking more forward to that than I thought. Hawkeye show was finally 100% confirmed.
That's my least anticipated of all of these, unfortunately.
Even the logo, the title screen,
It's
for
super
it is,
boring.
like,
It's
not-
just the what's the name of that? There was one specific run of comics that logo is from.
From the Matt Fraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like Matt Fraction's work, but I just
He used to be KC based. He's married to Kelly Sue DeConnick, who is the main writer on Captain Marvel.
Isn't the guy that did the Mighty Thor also KC based? The one that this is based on?
Jason Aaron. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
there's the Loki show though.
What graphic designer did they hire? Because that was like
They picked a different font for each letter.
there were 3 or 4 fan ones that were 10 times better. Go hire Boss Logic, for God's sakes.
They did hire Boss Logic, actually. He works for him now.
Oh yeah.
He did a bunch of the art for Endgame.
I was gonna say he didn't
Official
do this.
posters. No, he did not
He did not do
this.
this. So what's interesting is we did guess this one correctly. So this will follow the Loki that steals the Tesseract in the 2012 Splinter.
So by the way, this is bad Loki. This is not redemption Loki. Like this is the guy that flat out called Black Widow a cunt. Like this is not good Loki, and this is the show I'm least excited about because I liked anti-hero Loki a little bit better.
I'm not looking forward to the show because I also don't think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not.
They just love Tom Hiddleston.
And I do too, which is why I feel like just suck it up and bring them back to life and not make this convoluted nonsense so you can use them the way everybody wants you to. Because now what is he going to do that's consequential to anything when his show takes place essentially 11 years in the past?
Yeah.
I mean, does it have to be consequential to anything?
It can't really take place on Midgard because Doctor Strange acknowledges that he is an enemy of Earth, and you think that.
I mean, I guess if it doesn't connect with anything that we know anything about at all, then it doesn't carry any weight. Does it carry any significance?
Well, this is a great time to show more of Jotunheim or Niflheim or Hell or a few other places that we've never seen. So if you explore that with all these different races, then it's interesting. If you have him sit in a fucking cell for 6 years, it's going to be very bad. So, I don't know.
This show just kind of acknowledges one of the few problems in Endgame, which is the way the time travel is explained. And I'm just not sure it makes any sense.
Well, this acknowledges one of the huge problems that MCU has, where if something's popular, they're going to give it money over substance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just bite the bullet and bring him back to life. Say that the unsnap, brought him back. Like, there's no reason it couldn't have.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd accept that in a heartbeat because seeing him in Love and Thunder would be a lot of fun too. Yeah, I loved him in Ragnarok.
Yeah, he worked well with Taika Waititi's method of filmmaking.
He and Jeff Goldblum talking to each other was great.
Yeah.
I just feel like it'd be easier to explain. Oh yeah, we brought him back in the snap. Makes more sense to the average person.
But it would be Iron Man that brought him back in the snap,
Sure.
and
Or Hulk.
Sure.
Hulk could have done it.
I guess that's true. But would either of one of them be like, "Oh, I love Loki. Let's bring him back"? I guess Hulk was on the jet,
Yeah,
so maybe it would have been like
exactly.
he redeemed himself.
Right. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. That makes much more sense than a splintered timeline where he doesn't have to meet back up with himself at any point because it's just okay. Like, that is convoluted nonsense to me. So,
Lastly, as part of the MCU panel, they discussed the future. They have already started talking about ways to bring in Fantastic Four and X-Men. They did say that they are going to choose whatever medium works out best. So they're probably shopping both TV and movies at this time. And both of them, I think, are probably better for TV at this point. So if they get the Disney Plus treatment and I'm already subscribed, I will not be upset. And then lastly,
it does seem like a little bit of a waste for such huge characters, but I mean, it's whatever.
I mean,
I'm
there's
not gonna
so
be
many
upset,
X-Men,
but
like splitting it would be fine.
yeah,
I mean, you can do it the way Star Trek did it. You have a show, and if it's popular, you make a movie.
They did say, Kevin Feige said in interviews afterwards that they're going to be doing it in a much, much different way than the way it's been done before. So that's possible. It means TV shows. And I wouldn't be upset with it. It just seems like everybody's used to seeing the X-Men in movies. So
Yeah.
I will be curious how they handle the Fantastic Four, because I feel like the two versions we have were done in very, very different ways. So I'm curious what the third option is. you
Yeah.
know? But
And then lastly, Blade is looking like it's going to be the first big property of Phase 5 in probably 2022. And they have Mahershala Ali cast, which was our fan cast. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we made it public, but we definitely talked about it privately late at night, almost every time after coitus. It was that important to us.
they didn't discuss much of Phase 5. I mean,
They
I think
didn't.
we got Guardians 3 confirmed. We've got Captain Marvel 2, Black Panther 2.
Yep.
Spider-Man.
No, they didn't.
3.
He hasn't said anything about Spider-Man, which was interesting.
Um,
At least none of the interviews I read, and there were actually articles I read that said that they specifically didn't bring up Spider-Man
Okay.
3 because that's Sony's announcement to make, not theirs.
Well, no, I know that, but what I read basically said that if it works out and they can slot Spider-Man 3
They want
into
to.
Phase 2 and into Phase 4, they will.
Yeah,
So
I
that-
believe it.
I mean, so if they're thinking it might make it into this phase, then I mean it's Phase 5.
I would think that would be great, but I'm
So-
saying that basically what they've confirmed,
All right.
And Avengers
that's not one of them.
5.
they did talk about another Avengers movie
They said that
with a completely
they-
different
yeah.
lineup.
So I imagine we're going to see both versions of Thor, or maybe just one, depending on what they do with him after this. We're going to see.
There was no talk of the Hulk show, the She-Hulk show.
No, that's true. That might be Phase 5.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
They did talk about the What If show, which we didn't really talk about, but it didn't.
Right.
That's the one that we've talked about the most so far on the
Yeah.
show, because that's the one that we know the most.
We had
So
a
that's-
tiny fraction of information, and that's more than we had on anything
That
else.
is still
Exactly.
Phase 4, though. That's
Yeah.
summer 2021. So
I think that's the show that drops with Disney Plus, because it's animated and they've already. No, it
No,
doesn't.
That's
It's later.
2 years off.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That comes more towards the end of Phase 4,
Got it.
which is
That's
So
I
fine.
there's no Marvel shows at launch. For,
nothing new.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
the first show is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is basically a year after launch.
That's disappointing.
So yeah, it's a little bit farther out than I thought. I mean, animation takes time.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I imagine they'd be shorter. Half hour, 20, I guess with commercial. Well,
No
what a
commercials,
commercial break
probably.
would be, make them 20, 22 minutes. But yeah, I mean, it looks like, yeah, and then Hawkeye and Thor
Yeah.
finish out that phase.
Cool.
So,
It is kind of weird now. They're doing shorter, more intense phases.
Mm-hmm. Well, counting the shows, like that's 6 hours worth of content every time. That's 2 movies.
It's 11
like-
different properties, isn't
Yeah.
it, over 2 years? So
it's a lot of
It's
content.
huge.
I'm
I'm
little
happier with shorter phases.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the amount of content. It's a lot for people to watch.
Yeah. It's getting to be the point where it's too much for us, and we make this stuff priorities. So.
Now, if the shows are all short, if they're all going to be 6-8 episodes, I mean, that does make it easier.
Yeah.
Because even at 13 episodes for the Netflix shows, it was still difficult sometimes.
If
find
we
the time.
plan our life around it, that's a day for us.
Yeah.
But we have to set aside a lot of time because all of us have stuff to do. So.
it's true.
And then very lastly, I kind of forgot about this before. So, The Witcher.
Oh,
Yeah.
Henry Cavill.
The Witcher had a fantastic trailer, introduced all the characters that we really know, minus Dandelion. So we got Geralt, we got Roach, we got Triss and Ciri and Yennefer. So it's not adapting the games.
No.
It's adapting the stories. There are 7 books, I believe. First 2 are just a collection of short stories, and then you get into the complicated relationships between all of them and what Witchers are. And so I think it looks fantastic.
Henry Cavill looks jacked, bigger than he was when he played Superman. I mean,
Yep.
he is huge
That-
and
yeah.
awesome looking. Like, I knew nothing other than I know of the video game's existence and some of the character names, but beyond that, I don't know anything about The Witcher. And I mean, this looks like it could be Netflix's Game of Thrones if they play it right.
Well,
I mean, it looks gorgeous, everything about it.
The writer is Polish, and apparently this series is considered like the Eastern European, Russian, Polish, Ukrainian kind of like Lord of the Rings. They treat it like that over there. So it's insanely huge, and they have just as much like time and cultural dedication to it that we do Lord of the Rings. And I think that like this could be pretty amazing. Now, how long can you keep Henry Cavill on for a series? I don't know, because this is Geralt's story.
Hopefully they contracted him.
Yeah. If they want like 6-7 years out of this, or 6-7 seasons, they're gonna have to really
pay him a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a contract.
Netflix is bleeding right now, so I don't know if paying him a lot of money.
Oh
is.
yeah. As soon as they announced that The Office and Friends were leaving, they lost subscribers like crazy.
They did announce 7 new shows at San Diego Comic-Con that are all original shows. So they're certainly like not slowing down as far as their production is concerned. They're just shifting their focus.
Eventually that'll catch up to them, though, I think. We'll
Probably.
see.
I mean, once Disney Plus, HBO Max, and NBC, I think it's called NBC Universal, are all live, then Netflix and Hulu are going to have a harder time standing on their own.
Hulu probably won't. This is mostly owned by Disney at this point. It'll have the mouse backing it.
I mean, yeah, but unless they start making more adult content to put on there, it's just going to be like the other networks will start pulling their shows from Hulu.
You clearly haven't watched Future Man.
It's pretty good.
It's great.
Sure. But
And very adult. There's literally penises flopping around on
They
it.
also have
I
Handmaid's Tale and Harlots, and both of them are getting Emmys and
Sure.
Golden Globes. So, you
But
know,
if
they still have stuff.
if Warner Brothers, CBS, and NBC pull all of their content from Hulu once contracts expire, I don't know that that's enough to keep.
What about
people
having the
subscribed.
Orville?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
That
big
was
one.
announced.
That's a big one. The Orville moving to Hulu for season 3. But again, are people going to stay subscribed to it? You know, if there's all these other competing ones, that's the problem that Hulu and Netflix have. Is their original content enough to keep up with the other networks? And I don't think we know yet.
I don't either. All right, so D23 is coming up. If you want to see more Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney news, they will have footage there. I bet you anything we see our first Black Widow trailer shortly after D23.
Star Trek Las Vegas is in 2 weeks. So
Yep.
I imagine we'll see new content that they hid from San Diego for that audience.
Absolutely. Discovery trailer, maybe.
Probably Discovery, probably more Picard, maybe
Yeah.
the first trailer for Lower Decks.
Yeah. So we still have a few big cons this year. We can still get a bunch of new content. And then, of course, the holiday season always brings about a ton of new trailers. So 2019 is still going to be jam-packed. SDCC gave us a lot of stuff, but it's not over yet. Once again, to everybody watching, thank you so much for sticking around. We appreciate it. Sorry we struggled, but, you know, you guys are super awesome. That is going to wrap it up for us. Of course, you can follow Heroes Podcasts on our website, heroespodcast.com. You can follow us every day on our social media at Heroes Podcasts. You can watch Screen Heroes live on Twitch every Tuesday, twitch.tv/Heroes Podcast. You can follow Screen Heroes at Screen Heroes Pod on Twitter. You can follow Ryan individually at Buster Props on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow Derek at the Star Trek Dude on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can follow me at Siren Ray. I almost forgot my name. On Instagram,
Yes.
Facebook, and Twitter. Every single day, guys. We're here. We'd like to chat. It's what we do. We will see you next week. I don't know. We are taking a break next week because Derek and I are getting married that week.
Woo.
Woo!
It'll just be an hour of Ryan talking.
Oh,
I mean, if you want to put out your own episode, you're
I'm
welcome
good,
to.
but thank you.